Yes, tomorrow is Memorial Day. We use this time to pay tribute to those who have given their lives in all of the wars that the United States has been in. And there's going to be some public ceremonies, particularly at the grave of the unknown soldier in Arlington Cemetery. Flags will fly at half-mast until noon, and people all over the nation will rejoice that for now, most of, maybe not all, but all of the killing is done. And we are basically at peace, at least within the confines of the United States. And as thoughtful Americans, we'll take time to look back, and we'll see that good has come from such high sacrifice of these folks. One such good is the protection of what is called the American dream. And that dream is very well worth keeping. I can think of no better way of expressing its value than to quote Emmett Fox in his own dissertation on the historic destiny of the United States. He said, the American dream stands for, among other things, the idea that all men and women, irrespective of who their parents were, are to have equal rights and opportunities. It is the firm faith that ability of every kind occurs indiscriminately in all classes of the community, and that the poor and the friendless are just as likely given the opportunity to develop nobility of character or intellectual or spiritual talents as the most highly connected child in the land may have. It embodies the idea that men and women, when they are not segregated from one another by artificial barriers of social caste, why, they can get along well together, and that mutual service and mutual cooperation flourish best in these conditions. It discourages all artificial distinctions. It says, in effect, the tools to him who can use them. The American dream includes the idea that the plain man can and will rise to any occasion when he is thrown upon his own responsibility and will be equal to any emergency that may arise. And it contains implicitly the idea that there is no difficulty that humanity cannot overcome if it really wishes to, because where there's a will, there is a way. Unquote. Another good is the upholding of the principles of freedom and equality. These two are essential political and social doctrines, but they are also the soul of spiritual understanding and growth. In 1775, you'll remember that Patrick Henry told the Virginia Convention, with his famous Liberty or Death speech, "I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience." Well, those patrons of liberty were guided by the lamp of the past. And their guidance was pretty much what you should avoid, what errors you shouldn't make in the countries. Remember the Romans, the Greeks, in their glory, they held that opportunity and equality was only for a favored few. Despotism and feudalism enslaved the masses to keep the elite in luxury. But our forefathers, those wise men, recognized that the greater error was not so much in political and social disadvantage, terrible as that is. The greater error was in robbing the people of the understanding of their own spiritual right of choice. They believed that all men, except a few, should be kept in body, mind, and soul under bond. So it was that our nation was led away from tyranny into the primal truth of our spiritual heritage. You remember that the Declaration of Independence established a basis for a new nation? Yes, it is the greatness that lies in the recognition of everybody's right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And you and I, as sons and daughters of God, made in the image and likeness of God, recognize that it is not only our, but every person's right, not only in America, but in America it is national policy and guarantee that each of us have these rights. The Declaration also cut away another despotism that's robbed men of their awareness of good. It says all persons, all men, are created equal. Created equal. In other words, every one of us, man, woman, and child, is equal in the sight of men and of God. And that is such a wonderful truth to include as our own national policy. I and you and every person have the perfect right and a clear channel to direct communion, not only with our congressman, but with God. Every one of us with God. No intermediary is ever required. No intermediary is intended. No bishop, no king, no pope, no nobleman, no judge, nobody can stand in our way. Our forefathers not only recognized the principle, but they take great effort to make sure that everybody knows it. And you know what? In this truth teaching that you're a part of here, we're enlarging man's understanding of these truths. You realize we preach abundant life, personal freedom, the path to happiness. We focus on the truth of God's instant availability for healing, for prosperity, and for harmony in our lives. We love to find different ways to help you realize your own right to make your own choices. Just as 200 or more years ago, men made their choices guided by the lamp of past experience, we still do that today. I don't want you to be misled by the term experience. It's not limited to event and thought. Experience includes also that nebulous thing we call spirit. You see, it's from spirit that we have learned how to correct the errors of despotism. It is from spirit that our guidance for guarantees in this nation to people that other people anywhere in the world have not yet known. So, in our lives, the experience should be reviewed from the event, thought, and the spirit. The lamp is the light of spirit illuminating the darkness of those past errors so that those errors can be turned in the future and now to good. As a matter of truth, many times, what emotionally or intellectually at the time appeared an error, or at best strange, becomes a turning point in life for good. But only if we choose to follow. And it's our choice. Sometimes there's a choice to be made that we just cannot see how to make. Many times we are faced with challenges and we fail to see that there are alternatives that we could choose. With an open mind, a simple faith, and prayer meditation, do you know that the doors to choice for you can open wide? And we are told in this nation and in this teaching, do not reject them because they are peculiar. Some of them seem pretty doggone peculiar to your other way of thinking. Many times, when there seems to be no alternative, a little prayer and meditation will show you that there are many alternatives. I had an experience of that myself when I was a fourth classman in cadets. Now, believe me, that's the lowest form of person that you can possibly be. And you have absolutely no power or choice. And I hated the whole thing, to tell you the truth. And I just knew that before long I was going to turn and deck some upperclassmen and be thrown out of the board. And one morning it almost happened. We were standing in breakfast formation. It was still dark. And this voice from behind me started to eat me out something fierce. And well, I couldn't look back, because if I did, I'd be, that way. So I just thought, well, okay, given the chance, I'm going to cold cock this guy. Finally, he said, turn around, mister. And I said, no excuse, sir. And he said, you have permission to turn around. I turned around. And this was a Cajun guy that I'd gone to college with, who was nothing but a good guy, good time fella. I mean, he was something else. And he laughed at me, and he said, come to my quarters after breakfast and we'll talk this over. Well, after breakfast, I went to his quarters, and we talked. And he told me how he had made it through. And if he could do it, anybody could do it. And so I sort of settled down. I got my anger under control. I lost my hatred. And I was okay, but I still didn't know whether I was going to make it. And he graduated at the end of the week. Now, for me, the lesson stuff was fairly easy, but the mechanical things were rough. And so I had been marginal in my test rides up to this time. And my last check ride was coming up, and I just thought, well, so I'll be gone, because I'll flunk for sure. I went into the briefing room, and lo and behold, here was this same guy. He'd stayed on as an instructor, and he was going to be my check ride instructor for the evening. I'll tell you what, I made 100% on that check ride. We just laughed our way through it, and he was telling the pilot to do everything he could to make me lose the blip, and I just was, and went right ahead and did it all, and I knew from that I was going to make it. And I got to tell you that my life course was definitely changed by finding this different choice from this angel unaware that came. And incidentally, staying in had another twist. In the BOQ where I was, we stayed in the bunch, and there were three of us off in a corner, and two of them had been to Dallas and had found dates. And they wanted me to take them to Dallas because they didn't have a car, and I did. So I said, okay, I'll take you to Dallas, but you got to get me a date when I'm there. And they said, okay, we'll do that. So we got there, and they got their dates, and they didn't know anybody. And I thought, oh boy, this is going to be good. I'm going to be the fifth wheel, And then one of them said, wait a minute, let's go to Irving and see some pups, some beagle pups. Irving, Texas, you know where that is. You've been there. So we started over there, and then one of the girls said, I know some girl in Irving. She's a sweet girl. And I thought, Yep. So anyway, he called her, and it was Wednesday, and she was heading for the choir. But she stopped, and she said, oh, okay, I'll come. 3 years later, we were married. And it's been a long relationship. As a matter of fact, July the 25th of this year, we will be, 58 this time? I think so. 58 years together. And I've got to tell you that whole process there led me here this morning in body, mind, and spirit. Now, maybe most of your experiences of the past aren't so clear and discernible, but I've got to tell you, you've got to pay attention, because the past is the path to now and into the future. Now, today's now is going to be the past tomorrow. And you got to ask yourself the question, are you spiritually alert to what's happening today so that it can be the lamp that guides you to your destiny of good? And are you alert to the manifest things only for your good now? Edward Markham said, none goes his way alone. So all that we send into the lives of other people comes back into our own. Unquote. But I'm going to add multiplied. It comes back multiplied. Many men and women in wars have sent their love out through death into the lives of others. They, in their eternal life, each have made that love multiply. And in the American nation, these sacrifices have welded a true civilization in which every man gives to each other every right he claims for himself. Robert Ingersoll said that. He was a great atheist, but we'll take him, And among these things is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And that equality comes among men as true children of God. You are equal. I am equal. We are all equal. We have recognized the wisdom of the psalmist who declared, Thy word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. In American men and women, the spiritual lamp does shine exceeding bright. It melts the darkness of slavery and of ignorance. And our honored war dead have been those hallowed instruments that have kept and will continue to keep that flame alive. God blesses them and their families and all Americans in love and in peace. God is blessing all.